Good morning, Rev Walter here, and I'm glad to be here today. It's the 2nd of September, Monday, and schools are open. So you can imagine there's the whole scramble for school. Everybody trying to get their kids over to school. So it's a real crazy day, after the long holiday. Well, it wasn't that long, but after the break. So I imagine a lot of people's programs are a bit topsy-turvy, but you get used to the gig. Some of you are listening to this in your cars as you take your kids, others are in the bus, and of course the rest of you are in your office or home. And so once again, I'm glad to invite you and welcome you here. Thank you for being a part of our call. We always do these every single week without fail. And so if you've been following us for a while, you know that on Mondays is myself. I come through with Unleashing Your Destiny. And then on Tuesday, we have Dr. Sunshine Sylvia, who comes through with Mindset Change Program. In the background is always Uncle Steve, who is always with us throughout. Many times he does come through and present as well. Wednesdays, we have open market. So in the open market, we just present different individuals. And if you have a product that you want to market or present here, we do offer that opportunity at a small fee. On Thursday, we have Dr. Nelly with her Prosperity for Your Soul. Very, very prolific and powerful contact and program that is really transforming and changing lives. Very exciting. And then on Fridays, we have, normally it's called Healthy Tips. We have Dr. Jacqueline Mulundika, but the one that's been standing in for her has been Dr. John Mubanga. So he's been on that particular Friday slot for the last couple of months on behalf of Dr. Jacqueline Mulundika, who's one of our people on this platform. So we're always glad to be here, and today is no exception. Now, just before I proceed, let me also mention that I have this program running. So if you're one of those that's ready to join the Unleashing Your Destiny Mentorship Platform Cohort 1, it's already on and you can be a part of it. So if you're not yet a part of it, you can become a part of it. It's a paid for program. Remember, stuff like this one we do now is free. So besides this free one, we also have the paid program. So you could be part of that. All you need to do is just click on that link, which has been shared in the comments, and then follow that and register. Registration doesn't cost you anything. You just register and then you get to know what it's all about. And then you can make a decision what category you want to come in, whether you want to come in under bronze, silver, or gold. Each one has different benefits depending on which category you go for. So prices and everything are in the link shared after you've entered and registered your details. So that's open and available. So we're running that. We're already going quite far with this particular presentation. We've been running with it for a while. We're on session 6 now. We're heading towards session 6. So very exciting, very intense content. And I can tell you, those who've been able to participate, this is one of the most intense mentorship programs you'll undergo, because in this particular program, our aim and goal is to make sure that you're able to achieve and put together two things. Number one, your roadmap, meaning in 1 year from today, what are you going to do and how are you going to do it in order to see your goals achieved? But more importantly, which is number 2, is your life blueprint. So we help you put together your life blueprint. And that blueprint is so critical. You will be amazed how many people do not know much about themselves simply because of all the layers and layers of what I call environmental influence. So when you live in a particular area or a particular place, there is so much environmental influence, and that tends to create an identity. In fact, many times we're lost in our roles, so it creates an identity that you hold onto, which has nothing to do with you. And so a lot of people find themselves waking up one day in their 30s, in their 40s, and some in their 50s and saying, is this all there is to life? That's the hardest question to ask. And for some of those people, they end up going through activities that make everybody say they're going through a midlife crisis. It's not really a midlife crisis. It's a waking up and realizing that what you expected and what you're seeing don't match. And so you go into a crazy state of disillusion. It's scary. And so one of the things we do is help you avoid that. Now, if you have already found yourself there, we're here to help you to make sure that it doesn't become a crisis. You can actually manage that process and get back to the true you. So in other words, get back to true north. So that's what we do in this course. So if you're interested, click on it and be part of it. Now, today I'm starting a series that really, really is exciting for me. It's called The 7 Major Keys to Transforming Africa. This series, I want to show you something. This series is the follow-up to this book. So you see, I wrote this book about a year ago, 2 years ago, whenever I wrote it. And it's called the 5 Major Reasons Africa is Poor. Those of you who are still interested in this book, it's available physically at $3.50. You can order it online as well. Those of you who are in the diaspora, you can get this via Amazon. Just let me know and I will give you all the links and details around it. Now, this book, since it outlines very serious, it's a very, very voluminous book. Now, since it outlines very seriously the issues with Africa, I was compelled to also do the solutions. And so those solutions are very exciting. But the thing is, to really break that down, we need to go deep into it and begin to really explain, okay, so what are the solutions and how do we go about them? So this is what is the follow-up. It will become the book. It's called 7 Major Key Factors to Transforming Africa. In fact, if we go full title, Into a First World Continent. So how exactly does that happen? I owe a lot of inspiration to the man that forwarded this book, Professor Hannington Mobaiwa. He's been on our platform before. This man did a very powerful book called The Riot Act, or what is the Rapid Africa Plan, the RAP, or the Rapid Africa Plan. And in this Rapid Africa Plan, he outlines a 40-year strategy on how Africa can become free. Now, that being that, it's a technical manual. Mine is more an ideological book that outlines what I believe are the issues and how we can go about dealing with this. Now, just for the sake of those who want to know what those 7 things are, so I'm gonna just read them real quick, and then we will go into my presentation. So let me just share what those. Wait, where is it now? What are those? Here it is. I found them. Wait. I'm trying to find those 7 keys. Okay, so major key factors to transforming Africa. And here they are. The first one is take responsibility. Okay, so that's our first key. And I'll go deep into each one of these because this is going to be a 31-part series. So take responsibility, number 1. Number 2, raise our standards. Number 3, change our belief systems. This is some deep stuff, you'll see. Number 4, change our strategy. Number 5, strengthen our institution. Number 6, apply good governance. And number 7, apply good leadership principles. So these are the 7 keys I believe will transform Africa. But obviously we have to go into great detail. So what I'm going to begin with today is the prologue of exactly how, the whole Africa story. Now, Africa is one of the most interesting conundrums in modern history. Why do I say so? Because it's endowed with the greatest natural resources on the planet. It has great wealth on its grounds, both under and above it, and yet is simultaneously home to the poorest people. And every year they have all these, what they call it the Global Finance Magazine Poorest Countries World Index. And this poorest countries world index is pretty depressing, but it's compiled by the World Bank and IMF. And this year, in 2024, 16 of the 20 poorest countries are in Africa. What is so interesting is that if you look at last year, it was 19. If you look at 2 years ago, it was 18. If you look at 3 years ago, again, it was 16. So literally over 75% of the poorest countries in the world are in Africa. The poorest people are in Africa. Yet you and I, listen, to give you an appreciation of the oxymoron I've just mentioned, I'm going to run what we call geek stats. So geek stats, or what I also call geek statistics. So I'm going to read these. I came across these, and they're pretty much eyebrow raising, because you wonder, how does a continent so rich be home to so many poor people? So, and Zambia is no exception, by the way, because whatever is going on in this country is a conundrum as well. But you know what? The saddest part about what's going on in this country has a lot to do with the people of the country. And so I'm going to restrict this to Africa because it's a common problem. You're going to see this throughout. So let me give you some statistics about Africa, right? Africa has a total of 30.37 million square meters of land, of which, listen to this, China, which is 9.6 million square kilometers, USA, which is 9.8 square kilometers, and Europe, which is 10.18 square kilometers, can fit with room to spare. Literally, over 790,000 square kilometers will still remain after you fit Europe, China, and the US into Africa. That's how big Africa is. Don't be deceived by the map. The map has always been a bit of a dodgy one. You know, when you look at the map, it looks like America is very big, it looks like Europe is very big. In fact, in the map, Europe and America look bigger. Even Russia and the US, they look bigger than Africa. But the truth of the matter is that they're using something called cartography, or whatever they call it, because the Earth is a globe. So if you want to fit a globe on a flat surface, you've got to, I don't know, unravel it in such a way that it fits, but because of the latitudes and longitudes. But the truth is, they are very small by comparison. Africa is the largest continent. If you had to do what they call the real size of Africa in comparison to the other continents, you'll be blown away. Why do you think there's so much interest in this continent, my friends? Anyway, let's go on. As if that were not enough, Africa has 60% arable land. You know what that means? That means you can actually grow things on it. 90% of the raw material reserve, especially in terms of useful minerals like copper, iron, tin, zinc, manganese, and just about any other industrial metal imaginable. So we're saying 90% that's so true, Shupi. Let me just highlight what you said. There's places in Zambia right now, my sister, where the gold literally bubbles off the ground. I am not kidding you guys. Like literally, the gold bubbles off the ground. There are places in Zambia. I'm not going to say much, but I'm just telling you they're there. And what's even more interesting is that there are places right now in Zambia, and not just Zambia, most of Africa, where God literally causes the earth to vomit wealth. Like nobody saw that wealth before, and it just vomits. And we've had that several times. Good example, Kasenseli. Another example, Congo. There are actually on record incidences where villagers are running to go and get gold, like they're just getting it in bucket loads because it's literally bubbling off the surface of the earth. That's how blessed we are, my friends, as Africa, okay? When they talk about El Dorado and the city of gold, this continent is El Dorado. That's why everyone rushes here. Those stories are allegorical so that you don't see the picture. It's part of the strategy of hiding in plain sight. So El Dorado, the city of gold, rushing into South America, rushing into California, but the real gold is here. Anyway, let me continue. Okay, on top of this, Africa has 40% of global gold reserve. What did I say? 40%, and they're not even divulging the real picture. This 40% is what they put on officially on paper, but outside of official paper information, we have far more, my friend, far more. Okay, 33% of the diamond reserves are in Africa. 80% of global coltan reserves. This is the famous blood mineral that is used to facilitate nanotechnology in smartphones and other electronics, including circuit boards, microchips, and processors. And this coltan now is critical in AI. You know, the processors that NVIDIA and all these other microprocessing companies that they're producing, these powerful processors. That, my friend, is coltan, okay? And of that, 80% of global coltan reserves, 70% of it is sitting in the Congo DR. Why do you think that country is never going to be allowed to operate properly? It's because of the insane wealth on the ground. I'm not even going to go political. Let me just stick with my geek stats. So let's continue with the geek stats. Furthermore, Africa has 60% of global cobalt reserves. Zambia has cobalt, which, as you know, is the key mineral in the manufacture of batteries. That's why you see this whole thing about batteries, renewable energy, solar batteries. These two are the big thing going on right now. And with the coming global summit on climate change, I think it already passed. It already passed. And the drive for more battery-powered automobiles and a move away from fossil fuels, this is one mineral whose consumption would drastically increase. In fact, it's already increased as we speak. Okay? And we as a continent have the major supply of the same. Okay, do not also forget that this is based on known deposits. In other words, much more awaits discovery. As I'm speaking to you, like I said before, the ground is vomiting wealth all the time. You know, in Zambia, I'm just going to tell you, what I'm saying is speculative because I can't prove it. You know, I don't want to be quoted and said, Reverend Walter said on his show. So just know that this is allegory. I cannot prove it, but I know that every week in this country, there are planes landing secretly in our country. They are picking up gold almost to the tune of 50 to 100 kg of gold every week. And it's flying out. Unrecorded, unnoticed. That's how much gold there is in this country. And it's not just in Zambia. And you know, it's different parts. In this country right now, Mumbwa, there's so much gold. I mean, there are so many artisans digging up all over the place for gold because there's all manner of stories about the gold in Mumbwa. I'm not going to go into details because, like I'm saying, I'm speculating. I don't want to be quoted. In Mkushi area there, Mkushi Serenje, there are places where gold literally comes out of the ground. I'm not kidding. In Eastern Province, Bugwi, Petauke, all those areas right into Mozambique, there is gold. People are picking this gold. Let's not even begin with Kasenseli, which has been cordoned off, Kasempa, all these places, there is gold. This country has so much gold, it's actually shameful that we're letting all this gold go. That's why recently the government was talking about regulating the whole illegal mining space so that they can start doing things properly. But the reason why that's going to be a song for a long time is because right now they're taking advantage of this chaos to mine so much gold, my friends. So gold is being mined, the equipment is being shipped into Zambia to process gold. Okay, and when they process it, off it goes. This is what's been going on for the last 2-3 years now. This gold has been getting taken off the ground. I don't want to mention names. Like I say, I'm not speaking as an expert. I'm just speaking a rumor. There is provinces right now. I mean, this is a rumor. Even what I'm about to say is a rumor also. So everything is a rumor. Don't quote me. In southern province, either Mazabuka or Choma, I think it's Choma, I'm not too sure. There is a massive deposit of nickel there. Huge amounts of nickel. You know what's going on right now? You have all these so-called explorers coming in the name of exploring, in the name of excavating, in the name of whatever cover they're using, and they're going out into those villages. My friend, the real deal they're going for there are the minerals. So Zambia, that's just an example. If we harnessed all the gold that is going out of this country right now, legally, and we started to create a deposit at Bank of Zambia, we would have powerful reserves. Okay? But remember, I am speaking rumors. I am not going to be held accountable and told, hey, can you prove this thing you're talking about? Hey, it's a rumor. Okay, so Africa is very rich in oil and natural gas as well. It has the most fish-rich coastlines in the world. Did you know that? Namibia has the most fish. Right now, even the fish going all the way into the Congo is coming from Namibia. Namibia has massive amounts of fish. Okay, they harvest a lot of fish. And it's the safest continent in terms of natural disasters such as earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, avalanches, floods, and the like. We hardly get that. I mean, can you imagine if we're getting those things in Africa? God knows. But for some reason, God in his wisdom said, no, none of that for Africa. So yes, we do have landslides from time to time. It rains too much and a mudslide, but you can't compare what's going on here compared to what goes on in Asia, what goes on in the US, in South America. We are relatively stable. Why do you think they really want this place? Why do you think they want this continent? Because this continent is Eden. It's the new Eden, my friend. It is the place to be. So one of the strategies is get to put up so many natural reserves and try and bring birth control so that you don't over multiply and fill up the earth, because they want to be here. Because when all is said and done, when the cracks comes to crunch, the best place you're ever going to be, where you'll be safest, is here in Africa. So another great fact that is hardly emphasized in schools today, because of a deliberate ploy by the establishment to expunge history of the influence of people of color, is that Africa is where the greatest civilizations of humankind began. Okay, so Kemet. So I'm giving you now the stats of Africa, because you see, I don't know, we've been fed with this crap about the poverty, and that would show the children with the flies on their faces, with the swollen faces and the rib cages, and just the hungry looking kids. And those are the images that go out to the West. Oh, the poor people of Africa, let's help Africa. But that's hogwash, because they are raping this continent of all its wealth, and the people literally don't recognize it. There's a song that Paul Simon did. He says, in that song, he did it with Black Mambazo, Ladysmith Black Mambazo, that's right. And he talks about, sing tanana, tanana, tanana. She's got diamonds at the soles of her shoes. Our. This kid is walking, hungry, naked, poor, but on her feet are diamonds. That's what that song implies. That there's so much wealth around her. There's a saying even in English that says, and a fool dies of thirst in the abundance of water. And you almost start to get that feeling that maybe Africans are fools, because we can't have this amount of wealth all around us, and yet we are poverty stricken. So let's talk about the historical background of Africa. Still on my geek stats. And the purpose of these geek stats is just to show you how wealthy we are as a continent. So Kemet, or Egypt, which, by the way, was populated by black-skinned Africans and not the whites you see in Hollywood blockbusters, is where, listen to this, science, astrology, cosmology, education, architecture, physics, mathematics, and even organized religion started. And when it started, Europe was still plagued with diseases and populated by barbarians. This is historically true. I'm not making this up, okay? It is a historical fact that Greece and their so-called philosophers gleaned their knowledge from Kemet. So a lot of what we call the Greek or Greco-Roman civilization and the way they started, systematic science is really gleaned out of Kemet. Kemet is Egypt, by the way. But it's not explained that way. And so advanced was the scholarly reputation of the Egyptians that the Greeks even named one of their cities after their great general Alexander. That's the city of Alexandria. This Alexandria was the seat of knowledge in the ancient world and home to the most advanced ancient library of the time, housing over 200,000 books and scrolls. This, I'm talking about 300-400 AD, BC, sorry. 300-400 BC, 600 BC. Okay, Alexandria in Egypt. This is the reason, my friends, that the Bible in the New Testament was written in what language? Greek. Why? Because there was a large population of Jews living in Alexandria, which was the equivalent of modern day success and progress. So the Greeks were the rulers of the time. They were the big empire of the time, like the way right now we could say America is the number one, country in the world right now in terms of their influence. So the Greeks were influential in those days. And where was their knowledge base? Alexandria in Egypt, Africa. There's a reason that even God sent Jesus to Egypt. So imagine Alexandria had such a powerful library, and yet this library was burnt to the ground in that period. There's a whole story around that. I'm not going to go into it. My aim is 7 keys to transforming Africa. I'm giving you geek stats. When it comes to population size, Africa has 1.3 billion people, whilst China alone has 1.4 billion of them. Do you realize that what that means? Africa is underpopulated. Hear me. We are underpopulated. Although the establishment keeps lying to Africans about overpopulation, this means that even if the entire African diaspora, which is about 120 million people out there, return to the motherland, they could fit with room to spare. As if it were not enough, the potential GDP, okay? The potential GDP sitting under the ground of Congo DR alone is, listen to this figure, $24 trillion. Yes. $24 trillion. That's the potential GDP sitting in the ground of Congo DR. That is more than the combined GDP of both US and Europe. I haven't even added all the other countries with the stupendous natural resources in that number, including our country, Zambia. When it comes to arable land, the same Congo DR has enough land to plant food to feed the entire African continent. If we took the entire, let me just pause there. The only reason Congo is not feeding us right now is because of war. They have the most fertile soils you will ever find on this continent. Black and rich, but completely not planted. Nothing grows. They're not doing any farming. You know why they're not doing farming? War. Remember, in the presence of war, it is impossible to churn a living. All those who try to plant fields end up having their fields stolen from them by rebels. Women are raped systematically. The place is not conducive. So Congo is very rich in terms of its ground, but they can't grow anything there because there's a war going on. That's why you need peace. You see, peace allows people to go about their business. That's why you need institutions. You need the police, you need the army, you need government, you need the law enforcement in order to enforce peace. But where these things don't exist, or where you have a rogue state like Somalia or parts of Sudan, it's very difficult to do anything sensible, especially agriculture. So then we continue to see starvation. Meantime, foreign planes, that's the part that's just so sad. Planes land in their numbers. And what do they come to do in the Congo? Congo is right now chaotic when it comes to anything going on over there. But you see go to their airport, see the planes that are landing there, and see the kind of people that are coming into that country. See the amount of stuff leaving in those planes. Coltan, gold. These are the two major things that leave the Congo every day, going off to Europe and America. These cell phones we're using, most of the circuits in here have coltan mined by small little children. You know how much those children are paid? Well, they're forced labor, so they don't get paid anything. But the elder people who mine the coltan, do you know how much they're paid? They're paid 50 cents a day. 50 cents a day. That's about 15 kwacha a day for back-breaking work. That's what they're paid. It's very tragic, but that's what it is. Okay, so listen to this. If we took the entire arable land of Africa, we are capable of feeding the entire world with room to spare. Do you know that we are receiving wheat from Ukraine? Ukraine, which is in war. They are fighting a war. They are being bombed by Russia, but they are sending wheat to Africa. What's wrong with us? And then when it comes to hydroelectric power, Congo alone can light up the whole entire African continent from its potential sources on its river alone. When they did the first assessment, they could put 7 massive dams in Congo on that river, 7 of them, and it would light up the whole Africa. In fact, the main source of electricity in the Congo right now, which has not been functioning for decades, that alone can power up the whole Southern Africa, just on hydropower alone. And did you know, when we talk about renewable energy, hydroelectric power is cleaner by far than even this solar. You see, we talk about solar, but nobody talks about the batteries. Lithium-ion batteries are very deadly for the environment. Go find out the waste of lithium-ion. We're going to have a major problem in the near future. Yet we have this clean energy called hydroelectric power. So the truth of the matter is Congo can light up the whole Africa. And as for roots and herbs, Africa has over 30,000, listen to this, 30,000 medicinal types that the West modifies in their labs to create the drugs they then turn around and sell back to us exploitatively. The key ingredients are gotten from here, okay? And you know, it is for this reason, where am I now? Oh, there it is. Okay, Africa, where am I? Okay, sorry. But perhaps the greatest fact to consider is that we have a very youthful global population, which is expected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050. That's in another 26 years. So very youthful. It is no secret that even the USA and China know these facts and realize that Africa is the future of humanity. It is for this reason that we have the 21st century version of the second scramble for Africa. These imperialists, which is what they are, know that Africa holds the key to the future prosperity, and the only way to ensure they get a piece of this awesome pie is to control the economies. And this will be achieved through cultural assimilation strategy. Okay? Now, have you ever wondered why today China is sponsoring and building a Confucius Cultural Center in every place of learning in almost every African country? They are pushing for Mandarin to be adopted as one of the new languages to be taught in school. In fact, they're pushing a lot for that, okay? The cultural centers. Why do you think these cultural centers exist? So the Americans have what they call the American Center. The British have what they call the British Council. The Chinese have the Chinese Cultural Center. The Russians have the Russian Cultural Center. The French have Alliance Française. What do you think they're doing with those things? You think they just love to come? No, the idea is to create cultural influence. You take over people through culture. We speak English right now. That's the power of colonization. So culture, you must make sure you keep pushing your culture. The Americans are pushing their culture through television and entertainment. So for the Americans, television and entertainment and social media are powerful tools to keep pushing their culture upon Africans. Okay, so they know this, that these kind of things, right? If you can push this over the years, you will create a cultural and ideological takeover. That's why they're also offering scholarships to thousands of African students to learn in China. Many of our people are going to learn in China. In the first year, you learn Mandarin. And then from there, you learn everything about the Chinese, their culture, and all that makes them Chinese. This is the strategy that was used by the British, strategy used by the French, strategy used by the Americans, strategy used by anybody that's called an imperialist. Germans, whatever, they all did this, okay? So this is the way you export an ideology. This is the way you export a culture. This is the most important method of taking over the minds and sovereignty of the African people, okay? Just like the colonialists of the 19th century did, this is colonialism 2.0. And it is being achieved through economic means, debt, in short. Have you also noticed that the Chinese are buying massive tracts of land here in Zambia with no end in sight? Unless someone changes policies, we shall wake up one day and find the entire country is owned by foreigners. So there you are, you're a Zambian, but you can't buy your own land because you sold all of it. Somebody sold all the land. Literally, colonialism 2.0. You sign all these treaties with these people and they take your land and call it a protectorate. And now they're doing it legally by money. Tens of thousands of hectares just being sold indiscriminately. Okay, so then that was just a bit of an idea around the statistics of what's going on, the geek stats, if you like. So then, to harness all this greatness and see Africa transform from its current status to become a first world continent, there are 7 major key factors that must be enabled or enacted to bring about the realization of the same. And I mentioned them earlier. But for the sake of those who joined late and those who watch later, these are: number 1, take responsibility to raise our standards, change our belief systems, change our strategies, strengthen our institutions, apply good governance, and apply good leadership principles. So, foundation to this transformation is mindset change. That's where my elder sister And Sylvia comes in. Mindset change. We must change the thinking of Africans from what it is now, a deliberate work of the establishment, to what it ought to be. Okay? Once Africans wake up and realize who they really are, then we shall see the dawn of a new era where Africa goes on to dominate and become the first world it should have been today. In times ancient, we were the first world. In times ancient, we were the custodians of technology and knowledge, African people. Ironically, they don't teach you that in history because they are deliberately teaching you the idea that you ran around with birthday suits naked with no clue. That's the message they teach you, so that you believe we were civilized by the Europeans. But history betrays them, because history shows that Europeans were civilized by the Moors. The Moors were a black group of people from the northern part of Africa, which was all black, by the way, who went into Spain, into Portugal, and many parts of Europe, and took with them many things that the Europeans started to adopt. For example, plumbing, soap, hygiene, many of these things. Isn't it amazing that the Black Death killed all the Europeans in the 13th and 14th century, but it didn't kill Africans? Interesting, it didn't kill Jews either. And the Jews were accused of being the source of that, but they didn't know that the Jews had the cultural and biblical teachings of Leviticus that taught them about hygiene. And so the Jews knew about that. Did you know that the Africans knew the same? But the Europeans were wiped out, decimated in the millions back then. It was Africans who taught them about hygiene. So you got to understand that we were far superior. If I start to give you the history of where black people appeared in Europe, you'll be stunned. Even some of the royal bloodline includes some Africans in there. I'm talking about melanized black Africans. So you got to understand that the history that we're dealing with today was deliberately designed to dumb you down, so that you believe that we need to be rescued by these Europeans and rescued by outsiders, these Chinese, when in reality we have everything we need to rescue ourselves. So why are we failing to do so? Well, we outlined that in the previous teachings. This aim of this entire series over the next couple of months, 31 episodes, the aim of this is to just awaken you to the potential Africa holds. It's insane. And when I take you through this series, you will see that indeed it's possible to completely transform Africa. And the only reason we've not transformed as Africa is because of the factors outlined in the previous series. So let me close by just giving you an idea of what those factors are. Remember, they're outlined in this book. Okay, 5 major reasons Africa is poor. That's where they're outlined. And those factors are what we're now countering in this series. So in closing, what are the 5 major reasons Africa is poor? From least to worst. Number 1, poor governance. That's huge. I mean, right now we're seeing all these cases in the courts with the theft. That's governance issues. Number 4, weak institutions. Why do we keep seeing every time there's a change of regime, nobody can touch the people that are in charge? Because we have weak institutions. So we need strong ones. Number 3 is geography. When these 2 are weak, geography suffers. All the wealth of the country becomes an intensifier for hell for its people. But if these 2 are strong, then the wealth of the country becomes empowerment for its people. Number 2, culture. Oh, let's not even start. And number 1, for me, religion. So we are going to be tackling the 7 keys on how we're going to see Africa grow. So next week, or next time, maybe it'll be Wednesday, maybe it'll be Monday, I'll go into a detailed overview of the 7 major key factors. So I'll break each one down in more detail, then we'll really deep dive further into that. So on that note, thank you guys for being a part of this. Remember to share this and let us join Aunt Sylvia tomorrow when she comes on with Mindset.